am Beetle. They say you never forget your first, and though I don't know who they are and probably never will, they are absolutely right. Well, half right. What they leave out is that in addition to never forgetting our firsts, some of us are doomed to remember them with an intensity and precision of detail that we'd never had when our past was our present. I'm 24 years and 8 months when number 52 Midwood Street, the brownstone off Prospect Park in Brooklyn, and the only home I've ever known, is foreclosed on for back taxes. This is the house my maternal grandparents and great aunt struggled and worked to pay for, and by the time I was born, owned outright. But now, after nearly a year of dragging our feet, dithering and bullshitting the new owners about how soon we can be out of their property, our time at number 52 is finally up. All that remains is to scavenge our furniture and possessions from the dilapidated bones of our soon-to-be former home, which will, in the not-too-far future, be converted to a high-end B&B. My mother, uncle, and I, the only remaining members of the household, hop to. My uncle does all the lifting and shifting of heavy stuff, even bringing things up from the flooded and spider-riddled cellar, while my mother and I go to work sorting, packing, and cleaning, each in our own trance of disbelief. I wrap and pack nonstop at light speed until I'm literally gray all over from dust and despair. My hands are soon beyond ashy and look as if they've been dipped in talcum powder. My mother has checked out and will stay checked out until the moving is done. Working at a glacial pace, lost inside her traumatized nostalgia, she carefully wraps small individual items containing large sentimental value. Number 52 has been in our family for 42 years and, at one point in its history, was home to 6 adults. My grandmother and grandfather, my Aunt Hilda, whom we all called Titi, my Uncle Tony, my Uncle Roy, and my mother. And then one child, me. I'm 3 years old, in the kitchen, dancing to Parliament with my grandmother. Bow wow wow, yippee-yo, yippee-yay. I'm 4 years old, and my great aunt and grandma, 2 amazing Trinbago women, are cooking and baking up wonders in the kitchen. They do this every Sunday, but one Sunday, they give me a chunk of dough, which I proceed to knead all over the kitchen floor, onto the living room carpet, and up the stairs to the second floor. When I'm done kneading, they bake my dough into a warm golden pastry, which is delicious, and, considering where I'd done my kneading, surprisingly free of Irish setter hairs, carpet fibers, and Lego bricks. I'm 5 years old, lying on my stomach on the living room couch, leaning over the edge and pretending that the carpet I'm goggling down at is really the wild Amazon River flowing by, and I'm in a boat or a seaplane about to go over a wild Amazonian waterfall. I'm 6, 7, 8 years old, lying on this same couch, which is the longest couch in the world, watching Kojak, Rockford Files, Trapper John M.D., and assorted detective stories with my Aunt Titi, reading Grimm's fairy tales, and, later, science fiction and fantasy. My grandparents were those hardworking West Indians you always hear about. They came to this country believing that if they worked hard enough, they would acquire wealth to pass on to their children, just like white people acquired their generational wealth, buying and owning a home outright. They did everything right, but By the time I was in my late teens, my mother just couldn't keep up. Needed repairs, upkeep on the house, and taxes began to overwhelm her. Falling seriously behind on her tax payments, my mother ended up at the Eastern District Court, where they handled real estate cases, in a room filled with West Indians and other Black people. The only white people in the room were the judge, the lawyers, and the court clerks. It was a cattle call process, everyone just moving through it. $235 got you an extra month to find a lawyer, but that lawyer wasn't really working for you. He was just moving you along through a system that had no interest in helping you keep your home. It was the beginning of the housing market collapse that, 4 years later, would reach critical. People all around us were losing their homes. The smart ones cut their losses, sold their houses, and even left New York. My mother hired a lawyer who made a new mortgage deal requiring her to pay off her back taxes at $1,000 a month for over a year. When she couldn't keep up with those payments, the foreclosure began. But my uncle and I aren't tending memories or broken hearts. We're just packing up our first home. And when the job is done and the house is as empty as it will get, all three of us, the remaining members of number 52's once proud, prosperous family, leave. Without fanfare or farewell, we pass out of number 52's story. At my uncle's house in Long Island, I check out with the stomach flu or low-grade food poisoning, or perhaps simply a gut full of hopelessness and despair. A gut full of dust and tears and days of rush bundling and moving the material accumulations collected across 42 years and 3 generations of a now nearly extinct family. Whatever actually ails me, I'm dead to the world for almost a week, marooned on a tiny fold-out love seat in a tiny storage room in my uncle's house, waging delirious, semi-wakeful battles with my stomach. Battles that end with me being even dizzier and weaker than I had been before. On the 6th day, I wake up, still weak, but clear-headed, calm, and with an empty stomach. I'm numb and burnt out, but I almost have a tiny bit of an appetite. I make my way down to the kitchen in hopes of some toast and tea. My previous life at number 52, all 24 years and 8 months of it, already feels like a delirium dream. One that must have happened to some other luckier person. Someone who doesn't have to remember the feeling of having a home and family and all the safety and happiness that can come with them. My life, this life of stomach flus and fold-out furniture in a tiny storage space, could never happen to someone who was able to claim all those fairy tale family things. I decided that the best, most sanity-preserving plan of action is to forget about this other life that I must have fever dreamed. My mother and I don't talk much about what happened. I know she feels guilty at losing the house her parents worked so hard to get. It's been 15 years and we're both still in shock, mixed with hurt. But we live in a culture that does this, chews people up and spits them out. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, working, or middle class. It's a myth that you will ever be high enough on the food chain to not be fucked with. You can do everything right and still lose your home. The system sets people up to lose, to feel stupid and helpless. It's been done to millions of people, and it's still being done. It's still happening. Thank you.